Betsy and Thomas here for the American Intelligence Media. Thomas, we want to know why you are saying that Obama is the spy.
Well, Betsy, I am sick and tired of people talking about Michael Horowitz's distraction, saying that there was politicization in the DOJ and the FBI when it was the State Department that drove the whole thing. Victoria Nuland, John Kerry. We know these things, and it was driven by the intelligence community because Clapper has come out and said that, yes, he placed that informant in the Trump campaign for the Trump's own good. Right there is the confession. That's all we need. James Clapper, the head of the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, sat on the National Security Council with Susan Rice, who said that Obama was completely aware of the situation of the dossier, but only after the inauguration, because right up to that moment, there was a plan to assassinate him. We have pointed that out now. With Horowitz's bumbling, incompetency, FBI, he has pointed out by accident that Agent 1 and 5 had an active plan to kill the president. They said it on government documented. It's as government documented. These are government phones. Their text messages are part of the very record of their investigation. I mean, it wasn't an investigation, remember, it was an operation. So James Clapper admits, and now John Brennan got caught lying, and Crossfire Hurricane started in his department because it came as a recommendation to look into by Victoria Nuland, who told John Brennan there was a call from Estonia where someone was saying that Trump is connected to Russia. That call was from Alexandria Chalupa, who is on the Democratic National Committee. She's on the Atlantic Council, which is basically the propaganda arm of NATO. She works for the State Department from time to time and has been paid as a State Department employee. And she was the person working directly with Hillary Clinton and John Podesta. So they had to work it through what is called Floor 7, where everyone lived in absolute fear of Hillary Clinton when she was the Secretary of State. So yesterday, we gave to you to prep people.
Now, yesterday would be June 23rd, because there is no time and space in YouTube world.
We found out yesterday that good old Hank Kerner, Henry David Kerner, you want to remember that name, Kerner?
It's Henry John Kerner.
Henry John Kerner. We want to remember that name. He's going to go down in history. And the reason he's going to go down in history is because, as we told you, John McCain, with the entire Washington, D.C. top rung of all agencies, almost all agencies, all the ones that acted politically in this attempted coup. We'll call it a coup now, but it was also an election meddling, but not election meddling, election throwing, Trump framing, and then attempts on his life, at least verbally, and then there have been attempts on his life, and who says that they were not directed by the people who were weaponized in the FBI and the DOJ against him, who literally said, show me the money. I'm going to wear another gun. I'm going to wear my second gun, what's called a drop gun. So you have threats on his life. And why did Susan Rice, at that time, Obama National Security Advisor, why did she only send herself a text message after the inauguration? Because she did not believe that their insurance plan, their threats of assassination, their attempts of assassination, which were many, and we don't know all of them. We put up a few of them a few days ago with you in Truth News Headlines to prepare you for the fact, also along with what we also gave you, which was the crimes of Hillary for pay to play while she was Secretary of State. So we know about the CIA, John Brennan's part. We know about Clapper's part. I mean, we know about Susan Rice's part. We know that she unmasked the entire Trump team. We know that Obama was running the U.S. Digital Service right through the White House and running the election for Hillary right through the White House. This is all well known. We've documented it. We have to now say, point blank, Barack Obama, which that isn't his name, by the way. Don't get me started on who he really is, Barry Soetoro. That's more provable. There's no proof that he's Barack Obama. But anyway, and we do know his mother and her parents were all CIA agents, and they worked out of the International Institute in Hawaii, where Barack Obama's sister still works and is still a CIA operative. So we know that Barack Obama conducted the whole thing. The page stroke messages say it was we have to inform the White House and keep him informed of every step. That's what he's demanded. We have Susan Rice, who says, I was there in the meeting where he said, keep me aware and abreast of every single thing that happens in this dossier case. Because why? Why were they desperate right up until the second of inauguration? Why? Why did Mueller's team go in and steal President-elect's sealed transition documents that were part of the election? Why is Barack Obama's entire life sealed? We don't know his history. He won't let anyone look at it. It's sealed. Why? There's only one reason to seal anything: national security. Why can you not FOIA Barack Obama's entire 8 years in office? Because of what we told you with the scam of his library, which is happening pretty much exactly the way we said, except I didn't know he'd be so bold as to steal the prime, most beautiful property in Chicago and try to steal it from the city of Chicago. But that's what Valerie Jarrett did. That was what her business was stealing from the poor in Chicago and doing real estate deals. Rahm Emanuel, same thing. They don't care about people in Chicago. They only care about themselves. Anyway, Barack Obama conducted the whole thing. We now know that Barack Obama was certainly informed by John Kerry in the State Department that Victoria Nuland had invited Christopher Steele over and Stephen Halper and hired Stephen Halper and paid him in the fall of 2016 $300,000 in just one of 4 paychecks, which was for work done for the State Department. Complete nonsense. We can quote it to you. It doesn't matter. Christopher Steele was paid by Fusion GPS, that was paid by the Democratic National Committee, John Podesta, Hillary Clinton. Do you think Barack Obama didn't know that? Do you think when they got those FISA court warrants that Comey, who signed off on them, Beyonce, Rosenstein, all the other criminals, there's like 6 of them signed off on them, John Kerry, he knew about all of that. And of course, he had to report to the president. And of course, that was reported during the National Security Advisory Council meeting, because that's when it is reported. And we know that Barack Obama wrote an executive order that said anyone can now look at anything from NSA, trying to hide his tracks. One of the last things he did was to say, everybody can see this information. Why? To cover the tracks that it was coming to him. He was directing it. Barack Obama is George Soros's candidate. $2 billion per election, including $2 billion for Hillary's, Soros spent under the table through the Democratic National Committee in illegal election campaign donations. This is known. George Soros brags about it. He also brags about the huge amounts of money he spends for campaign advertisements, which have subliminal programming in them. He bragged about that too. So Barack Obama is Soros's candidate. What does Soros want? Open borders. What did Barack Obama want? Open borders. What did Soros want? Social chaos. That's what the Tides Foundation and the Open Society Foundation have basically taken over Europe with. And recently, because Article 13 failed at the European Union, there is no free speech left in Europe.
It didn't fail, it succeeded.
Well, it failed in allowing free speech to continue. George Soros's 10 fact-checking online groups, as well as the onslaught that he has made to make sure that this would pass, as you say, pass. Article 13 passed. There's no more memes. There's no more URL connections without paying for it. There's no free speech left in Europe. We harped on this recently. So George Soros is also going to stop Britain from exiting the European Union, which I like to call the Soros nation. Well, America almost became a vassal of the Soros nation, because Britain, who we're still fighting the first American Revolution with, and we're calling it the Second American Revolution to win the first American Revolution, Barack Obama sold out to Britain through Serco, through USAID, giving huge amounts of money to British interests, through letting our military be taken over through corporate intelligence, through Lockheed, through BAE, through all these British connections were all, in fact, the senior executive service members, the 10,000 Obama troops in the federal government that control all agencies. Those are the people we need to get out. We need to fire everybody in the compromised agencies, do background checks on them, and only rehire those who are doing work for the U.S. Constitution. Now, that is possible because of what I'm about to tell you, and this is what we are actually advocating. Barack Obama has committed treason. He was the commander-in-chief. During that time, he is the highest military person in America. He needs to go to a military tribunal, and the conspiracies that we've already seen in the over-politicalization of the DOJ and the FBI, don't forget that's also the Secretary of State, and don't forget that is the most politicized, well, it's not even politicized. It is the most wicked of the D.C. swamp committees, and that is the Senate Intelligence Committee. Warner, we now know, and this had to have gone, it went to the Secretary of State, which then had to have been reported to Obama, and no one would have done these things unless they were already given the idea that the president will give them, pardon them for their crimes, because they knew they were committing crimes, and either Obama or Hillary would as Bill Clinton and as all these presidents have basically pardoned the most criminal people in their cabal. That's the way that it works, except for Trump. So they all knew that they could then be given a pardon, no matter whether they were convicted of a million crimes. It doesn't matter. That's why they acted with impunity. That's why Dianne Feinstein, Burr, and remember, Dianne Feinstein stepped down to join the Judiciary Committee, where she is now fighting the release of unredacted materials to Congress, which is just an amazing thing that anyone could stand in the way of the rule of law. But remember that the Senate Intelligence Committee is the most compromised and the most wicked group of people on the Hill. They knew all of these things. The Gang of Eight comes out of two of them, as well as the head of the majority and minority, and then the head of the Senate Intelligence Committee and the House Intelligence Committee. That's the Gang of Eight. They were informed early on of the dossier and the counterintelligence Crossfire Hurricane operation, not investigation. There was no crime. When it is a counterintelligence operation, it is a black ops, national security operation to take down an enemy. That's what they did against Trump, and they're still doing it. That's called the Mueller investigation. We now know that even more than Bruce Orr, Lisa Page, and Peter Strzok were knocked off of Mueller's counsel, special counsel, because they were completely compromised, right? Well, there are others who are still on that committee who are still compromised that haven't been knocked off. Isn't that amazing? That's how corrupt they were. They thought they're going to get away with everything, but now, no. As we warned Mueller, if he didn't stop, everything would come to light. Now we find out that Hillary Clinton's best buddy in the State Department, Victoria Nuland's aide, whose name is Amanda Shineria, went back and forth between the Senate Intelligence Committee to the State Department, and literally when Burr and Mark Warner in the Senate Intelligence Committee wanted to meet with Christopher Steele to help him direct the way he was beginning to consider writing the dossier. In other words, the Senate Intelligence Committee was in on that dossier plan from the beginning, which we told you. We told you in January of 2016. We now know this happened. Why? Because of James Wolfe, who got caught with Alvy Watkins, the prostitute, leaking. He wasn't leaking. He was coordinating an attack upon President Trump. Candidate Trump, President-elect Trump, and President Trump. And he was working with Amanda Shineria, James Wolfe. We now know John McCain's direct assistant, who has astounding power as the only special counsel in charge of all whistleblowers at this moment. That's why no whistleblower information ever comes out. And his name is Henry Kerner, Kerner. He's the one who's going to go down in history because he is one of the most corrupt of them all. He was, as we told you, John McCain was compromised and probably had the dossier from the beginning. We now know, yes, he did, because his assistant was, in fact, proffering it to Christopher Steele as a deal and to Stephen Halper, who were both invited to the State Department to give them a report in early 2016, folks. Well, John Kerry was informed of this. Why wasn't the State Department included in their investigation of politicalization of the election? This is worse than politicalization. This is an active coup, a conspiracy that goes so far that all we can do is cut off the head of this nasty snake and then for years let the court cases go on to put these people in jail because they may or may not have signed military security contracts. But I assure you that Barack Obama did, and I assure you that Hillary Clinton did, and that John Kerry did. And they are now active military warfighters against the United States of America. They were literally having their subordinates discuss on their own government text messages the assassination of Donald Trump. And then we see, which we pointed out, 3, 4, 5, 6 assassination attempts, some of them from Britain. Is it a surprise that Christopher Steele and Stephen Halper are both British, even though Halper says he's American, he's British, so he can get away with this stuff? And it was a Brit who tried to grab a gun and shoot Trump at one of his rallies. I mean, why was it a Brit? Why did a Brit come over here to do that? Why, these stories that you hear are not fake. There have been multiple assassination attempts. They are led by Barack Obama, Barry Soetoro, and his administration, which believes that they have yet to step out of the White House.
Okay, I want to ask a few questions here. Now, do you think that this is what's really being hidden in the text between Agent 1 and 5 and Strzok and Page, the plans of assassination?
Without a shadow of a doubt. Let's remember that the liars, let's just call these people what they are. The paid professional liar, Michael Horowitz, says that there were 55,000 messages, but we've only seen part of them. And they've been redacted massively, and the parts better than redacted. All attachments have been removed, all personal remarks have been removed, all references to their superiors have been removed that named them by name, and so which he allowed a few to come through. And all SES members, senior executive service members, were removed. So those texts are part. Now, how many texts are there really? Well, just like Hillary Clinton says there were approximately 60,000 emails on her server. No, there were 700,000, and they are all on Anthony Weiner's because Huma Abedin stole them and sent them to her husband as an insurance package and to be used, of course, by the Muslim Brotherhood because her mother runs the newspaper for the Muslim Brotherhood.
Along the lines with these texts that may have these assassination attempts in there, or the plan for the assassination attempts, then would Obama have, I know you spoke this, but let me just make this really clear. Did Obama know about the assassination attempts on Trump or the plans to assassinate Trump?
More so than that, he planned them. More so than that, he weaponized every person beneath him. We have records of Susan Rice saying that the top brass was in that office when he said the dossier must go forward. That's the insurance policy. That's not the committee to impeach. And that's not the special counsel for the coup d'etat. The coup d'etat is what we're going after. But now, if you go back, we have been saying all along, as soon as we find a dead body that we can trace back to someone who signed a military security agreement, we have a military tribunal. We don't have to go through a civil court and have all that nonsense and be put in front of a stupid, rigged federal judge. You know the outcome by the judge you're being sent to because they are more than politicalized. They are weaponized, partisan, and you know the decision when you are assigned. And if the decision is going wrong, a superior judge removes that judge and places a judge in there that has been told exactly how the sentencing is going to go. And remember, Michael Horowitz is the top person teaching all the judges, all the federal judges, how to sentence corporations and politicians.
So where's the smoking gun to show that this is an assassination attempt that would lead to allow it to be a military tribunal hearing?
That's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
I'm saying that this is a treacherous, treasonous attempt to overthrow the government by Barack Obama, meddle in an election, destroy a president-elect, and attempt to stop a president being inaugurated, and weaponizing everyone below him and weaponizing the intelligence agencies and everyone below them using massive amounts of taxpayer dollars to try to get Hillary Clinton into the presidency even after an election, because that is what George Soros has done in 14 color revolutions throughout the world. After an election, he gets the young people on the street by using Facebook and weaponizing Facebook and social media. Look into this. We've already told you all about this in intelligence reports. He was doing it here in America. That's what Antifa was. That's what Black Lives Matter was. That's why people were going out in the streets. That's why Barack Obama literally said, you need to get out there with the resistance. Loretta Lynch said, you need to get out there and die. People need to die. Al Sharpton said, we need to have riots in the cities. And then there were many, many cloaked references to death by the Obama administration, Obama himself, as well as Obama was working for George Soros, and he killed 2 million people without the United States government ever giving him one speck of approval for that. So let's go after him for the bombing, the illegal bombing. Let's go after him for the treason, the sedition, and the insinuation, and the weaponization of his own administrative staff and the federal government to the point of subliminally programming America to kill Trump. And that is the reason Kathy Griffin and other people go crazy. Peter Fonda. Why do these people go crazy? Because they're all on drugs, pharmaceutical drugs. And at a certain point, they flip because the subliminal programming that is being put out by the Global Engagement Center, Barack Obama created himself for the propaganda during the election, which was ran by the Brits. And we know this because Stephen Halper was part of the whole thing, and they were paid through Strategic Communications Laboratory and Cambridge Analytica. There is one of their groups. So they tried to blame Trump for being with Cambridge Analytica, when at the same time, the Secretary of State, that would have been John Kerry, and Victoria Nuland, was using Ukrainian ties through Alexandra Chalupa to write Russian propaganda nonsense that then they put online. It was not even translated, folks. And so when Mueller brought Concord Catering before the judge, he said, that Concord Catering said, you haven't presented any evidence. So later, Mueller came back with 2.3 million pieces of documents, supposedly from the internet. And when they said, wait a second, none of this is ours, and you need to give this in the translated form so that you can show us what the Americans saw. You know what he said? None of it has ever been translated to English. So somehow we were affected by these Russian bots in Russian. Isn't that an amazing thing?
Well,
that's
Mueller
how corrupt it is.
He didn't expect this company to come and stand up to him.
Not only that, I love the new one. Yesterday, a guy comes out who says he was named in the Mueller investigation. The guy who owns this, and he has now been paid off. Oh, my. He has gone 180 degrees in the opposite direction, saying insanity. So if the one report that the conclave saw yesterday is true, and we're not going to get into it, but if it's true, he has been paid off a massive amount of money to get out of the special counsel's face. But remember, Fusion GPS, when its $12 million ran out and Christopher Steele had to stop his contract with the FBI and the Secretary and the Department of State, and working directly with the Obama administration, which would have been John Kerry, which would have been Valerie Jarrett, which would have been Susan Rice, which would have been Barack Obama and Joe Biden, which were all in the room. Many of those people were in the room talking about the dossier, that they were in control of it, and that they weren't giving up yet. Even at the last moment, the last moments before the inauguration, that group was still trying to stop a duly elected president from going into the White House. That's how bad this is.
No, I think it's worse. Take us down the road of Stephen Halper, Strategic Communication Laboratory, Sir Jeffrey Patty, and the Queen. How were they involved in this assassination attempt?
Well, this is very, 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 very sad. It's a treason. Let's not work on the assassination. What we're saying is that the weaponization, Obama's specific weaponization of his entire staff, immediate leaders of his staff and SES members, which stretches through contracts, through Serco, through Lockheed Martin, through corporate intelligence, which are owned by British Aeronautics Engineering and AWE and Serco. Serco actually manages Lockheed Martin, our number one or number two, depending how you want to look at it, military contractor in America, which at the point, not long ago, had the largest corporate intelligence group working for America. So in other words, Britain is so in our business. Let's remember, Robert Hannigan is now come out, that Robert Hannigan, the head of their NSA, basically, the head of their secret service that spies on people, came and worked with John Brennan in Fort Meade to spy on Trump. Nobody is putting all these things into one place except for a few people. And when they do, and you read it, you will be so overwhelmed you won't be able to stand up, that's for sure. When you see all the evidence against Barack Obama, none of this could have happened without his approval, folks. And it goes back to the Queen, because we know that Stephen Halper's best buddy is Sir Richard Dearlove, who is in Hackulate and Cambridge Analytica, Cambridge Intelligence Service, and all these different groups that they were giving direct counsel to Christopher Steele's group, Orbis Business International, and telling him exactly what to do. And Anthony Wood, the person who told McCain about this, supposedly, was also in on this. And Sir Dearlove, of course, works directly with Sir Geoffrey Patty. And Sir Geoffrey Patty holds the Queen's golden shares in Serco. In other words, the Privy Council of the Queen is more or less her corporate intelligence that protects her golden shares, protects what she does with the Bank of England, and has her own court in case anyone gets in her way. It's the Queen's court. It's not even in the Inns of Court in England. It's outside, just close to it. But she has her own court, and she has the head of that court, and he's on the Privy Council. She has the head of the military. She has the head of the intelligence, but they're all usually retired, what I like to call rogue. Because when they leave the government service, like they do in America or in Britain, then they go into these private corporations where they make so much more money, and they sell out the secrets that they know, and they know the ways of those of the agencies, the government agencies they work for, so they can work around them. So Sir Geoffrey Patty, along with the Queen's own cousin, is part of Strategic Communications Laboratories, and they say that they have intervened in elections. They brag in 60 countries and helped win 100 elections. They have intervened in 44 elections in America. Okay? Did anybody know that we were being subliminally programmed through Facebook, through Google? Yes, we knew it because we knew that Google was allowing it and Facebook was doing it, but we didn't know that other companies like Cambridge Analytica and their mother company that has been doing this for a long time. As a matter of fact, it has now come out, because George Soros has pointed it out, that they spent too much money paying Strategic Communications Laboratory Canada, which was really a group called Aggregate IQ, too much money. And because of that, they're saying that the first vote for Brexit is invalid and they have to have another one. And this time, George Soros will have complete control of Facebook, Google, all the fact checkers. They have, as you know, there's no free speech in Britain, and now it's in Europe. Anything said against a Muslim or a refugee, or if you even point out that they're committing a crime, you go to jail. You're supposed to take all of your sharp, big knives and turn them in Britain in these places, in these public dumping boxes, so that you won't be responsible for egging on a Muslim refugee coming in your house and taking a knife and killing you, or going out on the street and killing it. So you can't, how dare you taunt them having a knife in your house? And of course, they have no guns in many of these places, and now there's just drive-by shootings, and so the Muslims have just stopped running people over as much as just drive by and shoot them, because they have the guns. Because why? In the no-go zones, they have brought in their weapons, and that's what is being stopped at our southern border, by the way. And Fast and Furious, Eric Holder, don't listen to a word he says. He's as big a criminal as Loretta Lynch. Loretta Lynch blackmailed the New York Police Department over the death, saying she was going to put one of the police department officers in jail as she reopens the case of the young man that got killed by the police officers, as a way to stop Anthony Weiner's laptop from being looked at, or implying that Hillary Clinton had anything to do with it. So Horowitz's investigation demonstrated that Comey never named Hillary even as a person of interest or someone who's being investigated. There was no investigation, even though immunity was given to everyone involved that was at the top. There was no investigation. Therefore, mind you, the lies that there were Clinton Foundation investigations, 5 of them we were told, being ran by Andrew McCabe, never happened. The email investigation ran by Andrew McCabe and Peter Strzok and the other criminals we now know, never happened. The uranium one that Trump said we needed to look into, never started, never happened. Andrew McCabe was in charge for 10 years of the uranium run cover-up. We have the government agent who wants to tell everyone the truth. No one's allowed to speak to him.
Yeah, because you got Hank in the middle keeping all the whistleblowers at bay.
William Binney has given all the information that would have put Hillary and Obama in jail as a whistleblower. Not one speck of it has ever seen the light of day. Thank you very much, Henry Kerner, who was John McCain's direct assistant, who was his fetch and step boy, and now is taking over his position, basically, of making sure that nothing ever comes to light. He has given so much power, just like this Amanda Shaneria. These are undoubtedly SES members who go between intelligence committees, the State Department, the DOJ, the White House, the National Security Advisor, and basically they are just criminal messengers who carry the illegal messages. And now they're all coming out because, like a Jonathan Weiner in the State Department, number one person who is told the truth about Hillary, Victoria Nuland, John Kerry. He only came out, he said it in 3 places, on 3 different media. They all carried it, and not a word. He said that APCO Worldwide did all of Hillary's dirty work for PR during the election as a donation to the foundation, and that also she paid them. There was corruption going back and forth, and he says he conducted the corruption himself. He also says, and this is amazing, he said that the Clinton Foundation, Hillary and Bill's foundation, it didn't take in $2 billion. It took in 20, and he has the proof.
20 billion?
20 billion.
Oh my.
We printed for you. We got the article from 2005, gave it to you, Betsy, to put in Truth News headlines.
Now I'll make
showing
sure,
all of the pay for play. You cannot deny the $2 billion.
I'm going to make sure that this article has in the description box a link that take you to that article plus the assassination plans articles.
Hillary Clinton. I mean, how many times do we have to hear people call for Trump's death, which is a felony, to say it out loud, and nothing happens? That's because of the subliminal messaging going on that Barack Obama paid for during the election and still continues now because Fusion GPS, when they ran out of their $12 million paid by Eric Elias and Perkins Coie, who was the legal representatives of the Democratic National Committee, and they tried to hide it by going through their lawyer, but it came out. But nothing's being done. The FEC has done nothing. The Federal Elections Commission, the complaints, nothing. The $84 million that Hillary stole from the states, put in Hillary Victory Fund, nothing. As a matter of fact, Donna Brazile, the criminal who caused all of that, was right there with all of that, knew all of that. Isn't she a commentator or something now? Comes on TV all the time. They put the biggest criminals to keep the lie narrative, the fake narrative, out front to try to stay ahead of it. But when the facts come out, some of us remember them. Jonathan Weiner spilled the beans. Elias spilled the beans. Brazile spilled the beans. Whenever these people jump off, and they're completely criminal, why did they jump off? Because the Inspector General should have interviewed them, and they might have suspected he should have. So they jumped, but he didn't. He can only interrogate people who work for the government. So those who jumped off, James Baker, Carlin, all of them. There's a group of a dozen. Weiner, Rybicki, all of them. They're all guilty. That's the reason they jumped. These were career SES, many of them professionals. They gave up huge amounts of retirement funds to get the heck out of Dodge.
I bet you anything they still have their retirement funds.
They might, because nobody knows their agreements, because only the group of 500 lawyers in the DOJ, which has 10,000 lawyers. I love to remind people there's 117,000 members of the DOJ, and 10,000 are lawyers, and 500 determine how much money, agreements, and awards SES members get.
Thomas, walk us through the process of how we're going to get Obama in some kind of trial situation?
Oh, simple. We create a special counsel that squeezes the people to repeat what they have said out loud. We're only going with open source. If James Clapper will say under testimony that he planted an informant...
But you can't believe Clapper. He's lied under testimony before.
You squeeze him. We now, whatever he says, he goes to jail.
Okay.
Unless he seeks a plea agreement and gets immunity.
Oh my gosh, do not give anybody in this group immunity. We have so much proof against their crimes.
Well, what you need, that you squeeze them. You make them think they're going to get immunity. All you have to get is each one of these people under a special counsel. Let me explain a special counsel. It is a star chamber. It is illegal. Only 2 countries in the world still use this insanity. Here's what happens. When a federal special counsel impanels a grand jury, and I'm speaking of grand juries only allowed in 2 countries in the world, when that happens, you no longer have any rights. They are seeing if a crime really happened and who you're going to prosecute. So before you ever get there, they determine the crime has happened because they have a star witness. Guess who one of the star witnesses for the special counsel against Trump is? Peter Strzok. Guess who one of the judges who was impaneled was? Judge Contreras. He was the FISA court judge that gave out the illegal FISA court warrant. Peter Strzok is the most compromised person in Washington at this moment. So therefore, the entire grand jury must be considered totally compromised. And the second that happens, it's all over, folks. Now, he created 2. The second grand jury was impaneled in another federal court
in
district
Virginia
to go after Manafort. And remember, the only crimes found here are either fake lies, where people do plea deals because they supposedly caught them in a lie, which are fake lies. That's what a grand jury does. Or Manafort. Now, the special counsel gets to question you without your lawyer there. I want to repeat that. There is no such constitutional provision or civil right that allows a grand jury to question you without your lawyer present. The lawyer can be in the hall. They can ask you a question, and you can go out and speak to your lawyer, and you can come back, but the lawyer may not be in the room. That's to trick you up on one word, and they can interview you forever about anything. And if you make one tiny mistake, that is called perjury. That is called lying to a grand jury, punishable just as George Papadopoulos has been threatened with that. Michael Flynn has been threatened with that. Of course, Manafort and Gates have been threatened with that, and others. And why? Because that's the trick. That's the illegality. That's the trick of it. So why is this going on? Special counsels are always called. And now I want to point something out to one of our readers. Brilliant the appointments clause. Yes. But what you don't understand is the appointments clause was usurped by Janet Reno when she turned the special counsel in the Office of Special Investigation into a regulation and not a law. So the appointments clause does not apply. That is because Janet Reno had to make it so criminal that she could protect the fake civil service called the Senior Executive Service and make sure that they were always protected and that they could always call a grand jury and have a special counsel or a special investigator to protect their kind.
Their star chamber.
Their star chamber. Their illegal court. And there are many illegal courts because if any judge is partial or biased, they have to leave their seat, or else they're not a judge.
So Contreras having a personal relationship with John Podesta doesn't raise red flags with anybody.
No, and Judge Leon.
Oh, I meant Judge Leon.
They still teach a course together.
Oh, that's who I meant.
And he's considering Judge Leon is considering, and he's the judge for the Fusion GPS case, and Podesta is a criminal involved with Fusion GPS. Nothing is going forward on any of these cases. And when we told you that these fake investigations were fake, the 5 on the Clinton Foundation, there's now actually is one, and nothing is coming out of that the way it should be. And when there was supposedly an investigation on Uranium One, investigation on pay-to-play, an investigation on... Remember, pay-to-play was an agreed-upon criminal activity in violation of the Emolument Act, which they try to get Trump on. But Hillary did that. She was paid by countries that she gave weapons to, some for free, some for money, from our government through the Secretary of State. And then before she gave to them, they donated to the foundation. And we have the whole list there, okay? Obama agreed to that. That is a crime. Obama is tried to reach Kim in New York. In New York. Obama tried to reach North Korean
Kim Jong-un?
Kim Jong-un.
Right before Trump went over there?
Yes, which violates the Logan Act.
Mm-hmm.
John Kerry tried to and did speak to top officials in Iran when they said that they were going to reveal that John Kerry and others in the State Department and the White House took bribes, money bribes of cash, so that they would give them $5.7 billion that they didn't deserve from supposed fake sanctions, and $1.5 billion that was a supposed Obama decided that the $400,000 that he determined we owed Iran, which we didn't, he paid taxes on for 20 years or however many years it was, since the time of Carter, and that turned out to be $1.5 billion, and it was on pallets of money delivered to them. Now, let me explain something. Yes, John Kerry is a criminal, but just like Biden, Joe Biden is a criminal, they use their children to get the money. So Joe Biden and John Kerry get billions of dollars from Ukraine because their children are on the liquid gas board, the largest one in Ukraine, which is screwing Russia, and that's why the sanctions are such a big deal. As long as the sanctions stay in place, Biden family and Kerry family are billionaires. Then they went to China and did the same thing. So what I'm saying is, we need to stop pussyfooting around, and we need to take the crimes of Obama, which are so many that I can't list them right now. But almost every week we find a new one, when he was the president and before, and it's coming out more and more and more, and we need to go after Obama. We need to stop pussyfooting around with the people he weaponized beneath him. They're all criminals, but they thought they were going to get a pardon in case they got caught. Well, let's get somebody who can't get a pardon. Certainly, Trump is not going to pardon Obama. So let's go after Obama, and let's just point out that his killing of people, he killed a lot of people without any American ever saying yes, without even the United Nations.
No, I want to get the text.
Around.
I want to get the text that show what their plans were. I want to see that Obama isn't included in these texts.
Oh, no, he is. And as I pointed out, we don't have the text of McCabe. We don't have the text of Comey. We don't have Hillary's texts, which are sitting in Christopher Wray's office, the 33,000 missing emails, or he has them, as well as the laptops that have the 700,000 on them. Plus, he has a copy of the server that was, of course, supposedly bleached. Wrong, incorrect. This is all true. Testimony before the Congress has said this. Nothing is happening. Those agencies must simply be fired. And the people who can't prove this, we used to do this in schools. We go in and we fire thousands of people. And I did. This is one of my jobs. And we'd say, sorry, you're all pink slipped. But all of you who were doing good work, you're going to show us the good work you did, and you're going to get back. And we're going to do criminal background checks on all of you. And so if you do criminal background checks, most of the SES members won't get back in. And at that point, we just need to make SES just completely incidental. Because he can't kill it, but he can just simply make it incidental because those people don't do any work.
And
all they do is
reduce their
work.
salary significantly.
And they can do that.
Okay.
Now, there's something that we want to point out. The reason that the conclave is so good at what we do is because some of us were cryptologists. Now, the most amazing thing has happened. And just as we have been revealing just one breaking thing after the next, during this time when it seems as though we weren't breaking so many things, we were breaking something. Mm-hmm. What we're breaking is going to shock people. Now, we were shown a cryptogram, and we were told that this was a 50-year-old unsolvable puzzle that involved the death of 37 people. And we said, oh, what are you talking about? Well, why didn't they just take it to some cryptologists? Well, this is supposedly one of the few cryptological codes that has never been broken. Well, it's been broken, folks. We got in contact, or let us say some people got in contact with us and shared this with us and asked us if we wanted to be involved. And we said, yes, of course we do. So we are now going to reveal the second cryptological message of the Zodiac Killer. And the Zodiac Killer stated in his letters that in his cryptological cryptograms that he would give, he would state his name, he would confess. And yes, we have a professor who has been working on this for 7 years. He's written books on it and done as much research as anybody. He's an investigator also. We have the fact that he is working with some people who found a World War II cryptological key that solves this. And now we are going to reveal exactly what the second Zodiac cryptogram says, which has the name of the killer in it. And we're going to talk to a person who knows more about this case than anyone we've ever come across. So by accident, in a way, no, it's because we do our good work and people come to us. And there's other things they've asked us to solve we are working on. But
what's very interesting is that's the first part of the story. The code has been broken and the killer's name is there. We vetted it. It looks really good. Okay, so that's the side. The other audio that we will be doing is we're going to show you how this fits into a bigger picture. And now, because you have so much truth that you've been digesting from the American intelligence media, you're going to see how the Zodiac killer fit into a bigger scheme of things. And it is jaw-dropping.
It was jaw-dropping to all of us, Betsy. And it's really shocking that these old conclave...
bunch of old retired
war heroes. I like to call them war heroes because they always like to show their wounds. I got this one in Korea.
Right. Well, it's the white hats, and it's patriots around America coming together to get truth out to their fellow citizens.
Yes, and fortunately, I was only in electronic warfare, and I didn't get shocked too much, so I don't have too many wounds. So we talk to these dudes and say, you're so smart, solve this. Well, we came up with an amazing thing, which we're going to tell you all about. That we're going to tell you the conclave's response, we're going to tell you this professor's response, we're going to tell you the people he's working with, and the amazing things that are now going to come. All the other letters can be decoded, folks. It shouldn't have been lock her up. It should have been lock him up. We need to lock Barack Obama, Hussein, that fake name. I can't even say it. We need to lock up Barry Soetoro, who is an Indonesian, by the way. And once we lock him up, the rest of the dominoes will fall because they'll all come out squealing, saying, oh, I just did what I was told, just like the people at Auschwitz, just like the people across the street from Auschwitz. They didn't notice anything, and the people in Auschwitz, they were just doing what they were told. Well, that's exactly what Obama's administration did, exactly what they were told, and I'm sick of Horowitz's whitewashing and obfuscation and nonsense. We need to go after their boss. He was sitting in the White House.